We go into here, Kyle, the final fantasy of the season. Holy smokes. Well, just to recap from last week, Kevin Harvick is not in the championship four by some stretch of the imagination. So we're going to get full points from Kevin Harvick this weekend.
Explain how fantasy works this weekend real quick.
Yeah, so this weekend, it's a little different than every other week during the season. The whatever usages you have left, obviously, it depends on what you've got. But for this weekend, the championship four drivers will not earn stage points in the race for fantasy or for anything this weekend. It's just whoever finishes the highest among the championship four in all three series wins the championship. So that's what it comes down to this weekend. So that means that if you win the race, if you're a championship four guy, which it has taken since 2014, since this format has been introduced, which we could probably see again this weekend, but with some of the names, that are outside of the championship four, there's a possibility that someone could upset that streak. But let's just say that they do win the race, the championship four driver, then they would get 40 points, the max you can get with just a win. Just like any other week, if you didn't score any stage points, you get the maximum win, which is 40 points. So anybody after that, you get declining points, which I think is 35 is second place, 5 points. So let's just say a championship four guy finishes second, then they get 35 and then 34, then 33 and so on throughout the field. So it's a bit of a risk to put all four championship guys in your lineup, that's for sure. So you kind of have to predict who's going to be your championship winner if you want to try and get that 40-point max. And then you can probably skate by with a 35 if you want to guess the top two. But putting all four in is a very risky strategy, and it's been unlikely over the past couple of seasons where the top four has finished the top four. The only exception would be 2018 with Joey Logano's win, then followed by Martin Trex Jr., Kevin Harvick, and then Kyle Busch to round out that top four. But besides that, if I can recall correctly, I don't think there's been a championship four where the top four guys finish top four. So I think I'm right on that, but I could be wrong.
I feel pretty confident about that.
I'm 100% right. I'm calling it. I'm thinking Harvick, Newman, and Logano. No. 2015, no. 2016, no. Obviously, for Carl Edwards. 2017, no. And then 2018, no. 2018, yes. And then 2019, no. So it's just 2018 that has the top four and the championship four finishing top four. So it's a bit of a risk to put in all four. Not saying that it's impossible. It's happened before. But with the likes of Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch and Martin Truex Jr. outside that top four, there's a likelihood that they could upset that kind of playoff party. And with the restarts that Phoenix has as well, we could see maybe a championship guy get wrecked in the end of things as well with the championship on the line. So that's what it breaks down to this weekend. But besides those four, everybody else earns the stage points. So there's no if a championship four guy finishes first, second, third, and fourth in the stage, then they don't get points. And then the fifth guy does not get 10 stage points. He gets whatever fifth place usually culminates to, which would be 6 points, stage points. So that's what it breaks down to this weekend. It's definitely a lot of different strategies you can go into it this weekend. But for ourselves throughout the playoffs and stuff, we have had different usages, that's for sure, at different periods of time. So for Kyle himself, he's out of usages on Chase Elliott and Martin Truex Jr. The only guy I am out of usages on is surprisingly Ryan Blaney. I didn't realize that was the case, but I am out of usages on Ryan Blaney, but I didn't have a plan to play him this weekend anyway. So I still have all championship four guys remaining besides Truex and Elliott for Kyle. He's got everybody else at his disposal for this weekend. So that's what it breaks down to. Hopefully that makes sense for you all listening and watching. So without further ado, Kyle, I think it's time to get into the picks because I've been dying to do this for a couple of days here.
Just before we dive in, I want to give some context to how fantasy doesn't necessarily work like it has in the past weeks, where it's just kind of your favorites in terms of the guys mainly still in the championship race. Because, as you mentioned and outlined, the guys in the championship four do not earn stage points this weekend, which kind of throws a wrench into things. And we'll take a look back to last year's championship finale to kind of give some context to that, where the top 5 points finishers in that race were Kyle Busch, obviously, who won the race, but then Erik Jones, Joey Logano, Clint Boyer, and Ryan Blaney. So that just kind of goes to show how it kind of gets screwed up a little bit, the fantasy element of this, because you can finish first in both the first two stages if you're a championship four guy, and then wreck out on like a final restart and you're only getting like a couple of points at the end of the day. So it definitely throws a wrench into things and makes the strategy calls much more stressful for everyone involved in fantasy this weekend. But yes, we're diving into things here. Would you like me to start things off? I feel like there's one obvious pick.
Before we get into it, I don't know who my championship pick as of right now is. So for my fantasy here, I have got to make my decision here relatively quickly. I don't want to spoil anything. We'll get into
I will also say that I don't know who I'm going to pick for my championship yet, but I have it between two guys, and I have those two guys in my lineup. That's what I'll say.
Well, you're ahead of me, so we'll see how these
there's
first couple of picks go.
There's one.
I think we go into the guys that are not in the championship first.
Yeah.
We'll get out of those out of the way, and then we'll go down in the order.
And there's one very easy one this weekend, and it's the guy that we both have usages left on. And
John Hunter Nemechek.
Yes, John Hunter.
No, sorry.
I've used him once, and he got me a win at Talladega, so I thank him for that.
All right, randomizer king, we get it.
Hey, you know what? It worked.
But Kevin Harvick.
Yes, Kevin Harvick, which is an interesting one because he is not in the championship 4, which means he is one of those drivers that gets full stage points as well, which could be key because Kevin Harvick could go out and win both stages and win the race, if we're being honest. And he could get you like a full 60 points in this case, which I would feel bad if you're somebody that's used up all your Kevin Harvick usages and you don't have him for this all of a sudden. But no, I think everyone probably was saving him for this championship race, figuring he would be probably one of the two favorites at the very least, if not just the favorite going into the championship race. And instead, he's not racing for the championship. And we already talked about it earlier this week, our thoughts on all of that. But for fantasy, that just means great things because you get full Kevin Harvick this weekend, and he is probably the easiest pick I've ever had to make in fantasy, at least for this one.
Oh, yeah, 100%. It's not even close.
No debate whatsoever.
I will say this. Since the repave and the reconstructing,
he hasn't been as dominant.
He hasn't been as dominant, but he's still been pretty damn good. So, and his average finish in his career here at Phoenix, 8.97 is his average finish. 9 wins, 18 top 5s, 1,662 laps led, and he starts 11th on Sunday. So that's starting position. He's going to have to come through the field a little bit in that first stage. But besides that, Kevin Harvick should be in your lineup no matter what if you have a usage. So, I mean, I won't even take it back if he wrecks this weekend. Like, you had to go into this weekend thinking Kevin Harvick's going to perform. He's out for vengeance this weekend. I said that word tons of time on this show, but this one is really, really key. He's trying to go out there and prove that this format, whether you like it or not, he's trying to prove that he is this year's champion. So, like we talked about on Monday, he's my champion. I feel like Kyle is similar kind of opinion, but nonetheless, Kevin Harvick is going to be a mainstay if you have a usage left on him for Phoenix this weekend. So that's number 1 on our fantasy picks for this week. Let's go to number 2. A non-playoff guy. I mean, I'm going to say mine. You probably do have him as well. It's Kyle Busch.
Yes, of course.
Kyle Busch is in my lineup this weekend just because I want to get all the usages done because, A, he's my favorite driver, but B, he's got the best average finish amongst anybody here over the last 7 races. He's got 2 wins. He's got an average finish of 2.71 over the last 7 races here. So he's been sensational since the repave. 6 top 5s, 605 laps led, and he's starting 8th. So a really nice starting position for the 18 car on Sunday. So I'm liking my odds with Kyle Busch. I know you probably are as well. We both saved 1 usage for him here. I still regret not using him at Texas in some respects here, but at the same time, I'll take that loss in the fantasy column. So anything to add for your Kyle Busch pick that I might have missed?
No, I just feel like he's at least the number 2 guy in terms of non-playoff guys going into this weekend. Maybe even the number 1 based off of the numbers, but I feel like you can't count out Kevin Harvick there. But non-championship 4 guy. So again, you're getting the full stage points there, and I feel pretty good about Kyle Busch at least being a top 10 threat the entire day, which means consistent stage points and a solid finishing position, which probably puts him over the likes of at least have, if not all, of the Championship 4 guys. And again, when you look back to the results from last year in the Championship 4 race, the guy who finished second in the race, Martin Trex Jr., who was a Championship 4 guy, wouldn't have been in the top 5 best for fantasy points because he finished with 35, having finished second, and there were 5 total people who finished with more points. Obviously, the race winner, Kyle Busch, who won the championship with 40 points, but then also 4 other non-playoff drivers that, although they finished behind Truex, had garnered stage points, and because of that, finished with more points. So I feel like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch are both kind of those guys that you can look at as, if not locks, as close to outpoint those championship 4 guys.
Yeah, forbidding anything happening on Sunday with wrecks or whatnot, or mechanical failures, they should be able to outpoint some of the championship 4 in all likelihood. Those are the 2. Even if they were in the championship 4, I probably would play them as well. But with them not being in the championship 4 this season, which is a rare occurrence for having none of these guys in the championship 4, I don't think it's happened since the format's been introduced, where one of them actually hasn't. Since the playoff format has been introduced, the fact that neither of these guys are in the championship 4 at the same time is remarkable to think. So
let's think back to the big 3 days.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, all 3 of them are out of the championship 4 this season. So Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick are definitely ones to keep your eye on this weekend. And speaking of the big 3, I have a usage left on Martin Trex Jr., and you do not, sir. So that's unfortunate for the Truex fan sitting over here, as I'm going to take Martin Truex Jr. as my 3rd pick this week. And I went first here just because I know you don't have him. So that gives me a little bit more time to plan out my strategy for my remaining 3 picks. But Martin Truex Jr. has got some decent numbers here at Phoenix. Over the last 7 races, he's got an average finish of 10.43, 3 top 5s, only 22 laps led, and he starts 13th. So I'm not expecting Trex to blow away the competition this weekend, but he's been in contention here or there. He had trouble here in the spring, so that's kind of a little bit concerning. But at the same time, I trust Martin Trex Jr.'s ability to not go 2 in a row here at Phoenix where he struggles. So I'm not expecting Trex to be maybe in the top 5 at the end of the day. I'm expecting a top 10 from Trex if all things go their way. A couple of stage points here and there would be great. Starting 13th, just outside the top 10, I imagine he can work his way in there and get in the middle of things at some point in time. So those are my top 3. The big 3 from 2018 are my first 3 picks that are outside the championship 4. I cannot believe I just said that, but yeah, those are my first 3 picks. So let me go into my deep dive here for my next 3 as you take your 3rd.
Well, what I'll say is that I'm not as heartbroken about Truex not being in the championship race because Cole Pern is not there anymore. So at least that's a saving grace silver lining that Cole Pern isn't missing the championship 4. His streak stays alive at least when he's atop the pit box. But you're using a guy that I don't have a usage on, so I'll use a guy that you don't have a usage on, and that's Ryan Blaney. Last year at Phoenix, he finished 3rd in both races. Earlier this year, we didn't get to see that true potential of the team because they crashed out on lap 65 and finished 37th. So I'm going to take a bit of a swing on this one, as I am with my next pick as well, where Ryan Blaney, he's got some good numbers specifically last year. I'm hoping for a bounce back for them, and just given Penske has 2 guys in the championship race as well, I feel like they'll be well suited going into this weekend as well. And I'm hoping that carries over to Ryan Blaney as well.
Man, you did not talk long enough.
Well, hey, you know what? You went first you went back to back. I can go back to back because I got my number 4 guy who is also a non-playoff guy. If you want me to go with that, you want me to go with that? Okay.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a swing. I'm not gonna lie, because this guy, he's had 1 standout race at Phoenix, but since then he's had some issues, some mediocre to poor runs, and a couple of wrecks. But I've liked what they've shown since the playoffs started here.
Oh, I know who you're going with.
I've liked what they've shown since the playoffs started here. He's got a teammate in the championship 4, and I'm hoping that this team has kind of rebounded and they have a good run at Phoenix like they did back in 2016. And that is one Alex Bowman. Look, the numbers
Arizona native
do not suggest to put him in your lineup here. If you look at the recent results, 14th earlier this year, last year, 23rd and 35th. The year before that, 30th and 13th. It's really just that one standout run at Phoenix back in 2016. But this is a team that's been really, really solid since these playoffs started. And this was a team that started hot, got cold really quickly after that. It took a while to figure things out, but once the playoffs started, they've found that gear again. And look, it's definitely a swing, but I kind of like Alex Bowman going into this weekend, as you mentioned there. Technically his home track as well, the Arizona native, going to the 48 next year, so it's his last race with the 88 number as well. Who knows? But I'm feeling some good things about Alex Bowman going into this weekend, so I'm going to put him in my lineup as my fourth non-championship 4 guy.
Damn, I hate that you caught that. That is so crappy. I remember 2016, the final laps of that one, and he got wrecked by Kenseth there on that restart, and he was the leader, and that was when he was filling in for Junior, and
dominant
he was
performance, really
dominant in that race. He was second to none. Nobody had anything for him until that late caution.
194 laps led, and the next closest was 58 with Joey Logano.
Yeah, like it was not even close. And Logano went on to win that race. But Alex Bowman, man, that's a really great pick. Darn.
You still got 3 more to pick here, and you're already struggling.
Oh, believe me, I am. I'm in the doghouse, man. I am screwed.
Well, what I will say is that you get to pick between any of the championship 4 guys to put in your lineup. So you're even more in a difficult place. I only have 3 to pick from because I obviously have max usage on Chase Elliott there. So I can't put Chase Elliott even if I wanted to.
Shoot, I'm doing the math in my head. You know what? I've already won fantasy on the year. Let's go on a little bit of a home run swing and see if it's Clint Boyer is in my lineup in his final race. He's starting 9th. I like Boyer's averages. He ran well in the spring. He's run decently on this 750 horsepower package. Didn't do too great at Richmond. I will say that. Maybe a little bit disappointing in the fall race here in the playoffs, but I liked his speed at Loudon earlier this season as well. I think Boyer's got a decent shot here to get me some stage points in his final race. I think Boyer's going to go out swinging, and I hope that he gets me some nice stage points and a nice solid finish here to round out his Cup Series career. So
finished 5th at Phoenix earlier this year.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna take a little nice little Boyer bunt, see if that goes through, and
I'm not gonna lie. Single. I thought about putting Jimmy in the lineup instead of Alex Bowman for a second, just maybe hoping for some miracle magic in the final race.
If you had done Jimmy, I will say this: I would have matched Jimmy just to do that for fun.
Okay, that's
just
fair.
To put, but
that's fair.
Not the fact that you didn't. Too bad. So sad. I'll go with Clint
technically
Boyer.
I still could, but I'm definitely
just leave yourself with one guy. Just go with one guy.
A big swing. Alrighty, here we go.
Clint Boyer is my 4th pick. So we've got 2 championship 4 guys. I imagine here is the final 2. So this is basically one of 2 for our championship picks here, Kyle. It's quite a prediction here, but oh boy, I don't have my 2 picked yet. I don't know if you do. So go ahead with your first guy.
Okay, the
championship or anything.
I feel like just given I started the playoffs having him as my eventual winner, that I got to stick with it and put him in my lineup here at the very least. He's got really, really good numbers here. Obviously, he won the Phoenix race to make the championship 4 last year in the playoffs. Denny Hamlin will be my first championship 4 guy in my lineup.
All right, that's great. It's a great pick. You can't go wrong with the championship.
You can't go wrong with the championship 4 guys.
He's got a 1-in-4 shot to win the race, so or win the championship. I mean, if he wins the race, that's just a bonus. But
I hope he does for the sake of my fantasy.
I'm not going to go with Hamlin in my fantasy lineup.
Ooh. Okay.
I just don't have a good feeling about the 11th car, so that takes him out of my championship contention as well. So I think Hamlin chokes once again. He's been terrible these playoffs. We'll talk about what they've done in the playoffs in a little bit here, but they've not shown the consistent speed that I thought they would. So I'm going to keep Hamlin out of my lineup. So that leaves me 3 guys left for 2 spots. I've got Logano, Keselowski, and Elliott. I'm going to go with, I think, the safest bet of them all. I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski as one of my guys this weekend. So he's been phenomenal on the 750 horsepower package this season. And not to forget, he wrecked here in the spring, and he came back to be in contention for the win there late. So over the last 7 races here at Phoenix, he's got an average finish of 11.14. 2 top fives, 129 laps led, and he starts third. The championship 4 starting in the top 4, obviously with the formula. So Keselowski starting third, and I like the 2 car this weekend. I think he was probably my safest bet for the championship 4 this weekend. So I'll go with the 2 car as my 5th pick, which leaves me 1 left. So who's your final pick for your fantasy of the season?
Pick,
this is it.
Yeah, my final
this
pick
is our
for
final
fantasy
picks, man.
this season is Brad Keselowski. I feel really good about him going into this weekend as well. I feel like if he isn't winning the championship, he's going to be the number 2 guy there. You mentioned it all, but that team has just been so good with that higher horsepower, low downforce package. It is interesting going against the Phoenix race winner this season in Joey Logano, for me at least. But I just feel better about Keselowski and even Hamlin. So I'm going with those 2 as my championship 4 picks for my lineup. I feel like those 2 will be the 2 at the end of the race, for me at least, and for my lineup. So I'm banking on those 2.
Good Lord. I don't know what to do. I'm really stressed out here, man.
Logano or Elliott, where are you going?
Logano or Elliott. So Logano obviously has had the most prep time out of anybody because he won at Kansas, and he has the most amount of time to put into this car. They haven't had to really focus the last 2 weekends on their setups or anything like that. They've been invested in this for a couple of weeks now, and they also won the spring Phoenix race. So that's a double whammy here for Joey Logano here this weekend. Could we be looking at him as a 2-time champion come Sunday afternoon? And we've got Chase Elliott making his first final championship 4 appearance, starting on pole on Sunday as well with by virtue of the win.
But stage points don't matter, so that doesn't even factor in as much.
No, it does not. But this is Chase Elliott's final or first championship 4 appearance, like I said, and he ran exceptionally well in the spring before having a tire go flat. So he was probably the fastest car there in the spring. So that leaves me with Joey Logano and Chase Elliott. Joey Logano and Chase Elliott. Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. I'm trying to not to stall as much as I can here, but this is incredibly difficult.
It's a tough pick.
This is incredibly difficult.
Man, as we were talking about before the show, we feel that this year – more than most, where all 4 guys basically have the same odds of winning the championship going into the race.
There's no favorite.
Really good about all 4 guys, and maybe you could have Brad Keselowski as the favorite just because of the success on the higher horsepower package, but even then, it's super close. So Logano or Elliott, which way are we going here?
I'm going to go with my gut, okay? And my gut is telling me to go with Chase Elliott as my last pick for fantasy this season. Okay, so he's got an average finish over the last 7 races of 14.29, 2 top 5s. But the thing that really puts me over the top with him is that he's got momentum. The thing is, oh man, that's so difficult because the guy I'll get into it when we look at the preview, breaking it down each guy, but Chase Elliott has got some very good chances to win with the momentum, but at the same time, I don't know how much work they put into the Phoenix car for prep time or how much they've been able to do compared to Joey Logano. But on the the precaution and the side of safety here, I'm not going to go with the 2 Penske cars. I'm going to go with just a bit of a split here with Chase Elliott and Brad Keselowski. So that's who I think is going to be the top 2 in the championship is what I'm saying. So that's incredibly tough decision to make, man. That was probably the toughest thing I've had to do all fantasy this season.
Started with the easiest pick and ended with arguably the hardest.
Good Lord. Tell me about it. That's an understatement. But before we end the fantasy, we've got some honorable mentions, and that's all the championship for whichever side you think you want to go on. So for myself, we don't have Joey Logano for either of us. So that's
Twitter.
The one guy that has had the most prep time and the signs point to maybe him winning the championship probably the most. We have totally just missed that. So Joey Logano is definitely an honorable mention. On top of that, Eric Almorollo was one I was considering as well with some decent numbers here. He's got the 4th best average finish among active drivers. probably third, because you look at Cole Custer, got a good finish in the spring, but Almorollo's got an average finish of 10.14 over the last 7 starts here. He's got 5 top 10s as well in that span, so solid numbers for Almorollo here at Phoenix, but I just don't like the momentum that the 10 car has been on. They had a good run at Martinsville, don't get me wrong. And I think they had they didn't have a decent run at Texas. So just Martinsville there to kind of end the season here. They had that great mid-season surge, which put them in the playoffs comfortably. But since then, they've just not been up to par. So with a little bit of doubt, you could probably put Eric Almorollo as one to look out for this weekend. Obviously, Clint Boyer is one I said as well. Alex Bowman, like Kyle has in his lineup, along with Ryan Blaney. Kurt Busch is another one. He ran well in the spring as well, so he could be one to keep your eye out for this weekend. And then Bryan Newman has got some exceptional numbers here at Phoenix. I know he's had a terrible season since he's come back from that devastating crash in the Daytona 500. He didn't run, the spring race here due to the injuries that he suffered. So he hasn't raced at Phoenix this season, but with previous history, he's won a race here at Phoenix in the past too. So he's won 2 races here in the past at Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken. So Bryan Newman could be a decent bet here to maybe get a top 15 run kind of thing, but just be a little bit on the edge of Ryan Newman. But for my one stay away from, maybe for the final time we can get the jinx to work, Jimmie Johnson. Okay, it's not if you want to play him, there's no harm in doing it. He's got decent numbers here in his career at Phoenix. It's been a little bit of a rough go of things at the end of his career here, as many tracks have been for the 48 car. But on one final thing, the jinx has paid off on multiple occasions in the stay away from column this season, most notably the Kyle Busch jinx I gave a couple of weeks ago at Texas. We have that clip up on our Instagram as well if you want to go check that out, at the green flag. And then also the Joey Logano jinx where he won at Kansas when I said stay away from him as well. So I had quite the stretch there where I thought
there's definitely more than that, because it's been
Eric Jones at the Roval,
right.
He finished third there, but last weekend it didn't pay off, unfortunately. I thought that maybe it would work with Jimmie Johnson, so we'll try it again here this weekend. But he's definitely not a stay away from in all reality. He could probably play him this weekend if he wanted to, but just as a fun little thing to end the season, he's my only stay away from because it's the championship race. Who knows what's going to happen here at Phoenix in a couple of days' time. So that's it. That's my fantasy for the season. That's Kyle's fantasy for the season. It's been one heck of a journey.
One final recap of it going into the final race. For sure. I guess.
We've got the same in terms of Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch for our non-playoff guys. And then for our championship 4 guys, we share the same pick in Brad Keselowski. And then for Kyle, he's got Ryan Blaney and Alex Bowman as his 2 other non-playoff guys. For myself, I've got Trex Jr. with the extra usage, and then Clint Boyer in his final race in the Cup Series, most likely. And then as to differentiate ourselves in the championship 4 side of things, I've got Chase Elliott. He has got Denny Hamlin. So that's the fantasy picks, man. It's crazy. I mean, I could have gone a total 50-50 split with the championship picks and not gone with Keselowski and just went with Logano just to see. We got a 100% chance of getting one of them right, at least between the 2 of us. But we've got that one little extra.
Which means that Logano's going to win it now.
Most likely. Yeah. You heard it here first. We're going to clip that up and be sure to send that out on Sunday night if we're wrong. But any final thoughts on fantasy, Kyle, before we move into the championship finale breakdown?
It's been a tough first season for the Cushman roster. We're looking to finish the season strong and rebuild over the offseason, looking forward to a championship run next year.
All right. That's great words there from the runner-up in fantasy this season. So that's an understatement as well. So I will see if he can come back next season with a stronger performance. But I'm very happy to have taken the rightful place as fantasy champion for, I guess, half of the season, because when we started the show up, I'll take it nonetheless. So that's it. That's the fantasy preview for the final time this season. We'll be back in Daytona in a couple months' time to break that all down for you there, which is going to be another crapshoot. So don't trust us on the Daytona ones, especially
Except
myself.
For me,
I'm not
with
one.
The randomizer.
Especially for the super speedway tracks. I've not won that against Kyle this season. But nonetheless, it's been a lot of fun with that side of things this season. Sure. We've been posting it on Instagram and everything like that, our breakdown. So what a ride it's been.